With the end of World War II and troops returning home, the United States was returned to a Renaissance period, and with an explosive boom of population, the new neighborhoods branched out further than ever from major city centers. New subdivisions were on the rise, with hundreds of these tract-style houses being built each day. Soon, almost every United States city was laid out in this new diversive way, and with the homes, people needed shopping and commerce. Victor Gruen was born in Austria, and after moving to America, he became a well-known architect in the retail scene. Seeing the emergence of the new automobile, which everyone was now able to afford, and the new subdivisions, he wanted to create a place where people could coexist together, shop, interact, and live in a natural green, air-conditioned space. Thus, the American Mall was born. In the early days, these malls would be big central spaces with shops all around. But as they evolved in the 60s and so on, the idea was created by new big box corporations like Sears and Montgomery Ward's, that the best way to get visitors into the malls was to build these huge anchor stores and create corridors of shops in between, This was a huge success, and soon enough, malls were being built all across the United States by the day. One city to catch on to this mall boom was St. Louis in Missouri. With its rapid westward expansion of new suburbs, the malls were soon to follow. The first being Northland Center, which was wildly popular as the premier shopping destination in the city for some time. Soon malls like Crestwood Court, Northwest Plaza, South County Center, Mid Rivers, and many, many more were being built in every corner. But one was about to change the boom. St. Louis was about to see something big. Jamestown Mall opened in 1973 as the city's fifth premier mall to much fanfare, with Sears and Styx Bar & Fuller as its first two anchors and 90 inline tenants at grand opening, along with a two-screen cinema. It did very well in its early years, catering to high-end shoppers. The only problem was that it was in such a remote location, it made the mall such a trip to get to. You see, the mall was unlike any other in the area, as it was constructed in a very undeveloped portion of the city. Surrounded by fields and forests, developers hoped the suburban and commercial expansion would push northward and surround the mall. Throughout the 80s, the mall thrived. However, as the 1990s rolled in, more typical mall stores were replacing the higher-end ones, as it was starting to see a decline in traffic. In 1994, Famous Bar opened a brand new location, claiming the third anchor title along with a multi-million-dollar expansion on the west side of the mall. JCPenney became the fourth anchor in 1995, along with a brand new movie theater and a food court where the old two-screen theater once sat. In 1985, Styx Bar & Fuller started rebranding all their mall locations to Dillard's, and in 1999, JCPenney had demoted the mall's store to an outlet center. As the 2000s rolled in, the mall started to see a sharp decline of traffic and tenancy. Crime also became an issue in the mall, with several stores reporting stolen merchandise, and in 2006, Dillard's closed for good. One major issue for the mall was that the area was not developing as hoped, as the mall was still surrounded by forests and fields. Around this time, Famous Bar also rebranded their store to a Macy's. As the recession came and went, and the growing issues of the mall started to get worse and worse, more stores were leaving. In 2009, Sears caught wind of the mall's slow death and shuttered for good, leaving the mall's original two anchors empty, and entire portions of the original wings completely dead. At one point, management had even started walling off portions of the old Dillard's wing as there were no stores left inside. The mall was home to very few stores, most of them being discount stores, mom-and-pop shops, and organizations. Entire wings of the mall would sometimes be left in the dark or without heating, as management struggled to pay the electrical and heat bills. In 2013, JCPenney closed for good, and 1 year later, remaining tenants were told to vacate as the mall could no longer afford the electrical bill. Macy's closed shortly after, and the entire mall was left abandoned. People were regularly finding themselves able to get inside the old mall, exploring it in a state that's almost kind of ghostly, before rapid decay had began. Soon black mold was reported in the vacant anchors, and the weakening of the structure made it dangerous to enter. People started to break in just to steal stuff from old stores, and scrappers began finding anything of value. The old mall was seen as a dangerous place to visit in the mounting structural integrity problems, black mold, drug deals, and high crime rate. Gunshots would even be sometimes fired off in the late hours of the night, and even a fire being started in the old Dillard's. The property was acquired by the St. Louis Port Authority in 2018, and while redevelopment plans have been brought up numerous times, still nothing official has been set in place, and the rapidly deteriorating structure sits longer and longer with no future in sight. It's almost kind of surreal, the state the mall's in. When I visited in August of 2020, it's strange driving out of the city through forests and hills and then all of a sudden seeing the enormous mall completely abandoned in the middle of nowhere. It's truly an amazing sight, and if you're in the area, I highly recommend at least seeing the place before it's demolished sometime, most likely soon. Now, I didn't enter the mall due to the fear of running into someone, or the immense structural deterioration of the building, or the fact that there's black mold everywhere and I wasn't properly equipped. But just seeing it from the outside gives you a pretty good perspective of the state the mall's in. And if you want to see an interior video of what it looks like right now, I highly suggest watching Ace's Adventures video. He does a pretty good in-depth look at what the mall looks like in its current state on the inside, and it's absolutely insane seeing it the way it is. Maybe.
Look at that.
Oh, the
Oh, you can peek in there too.
Oh my god. The current state of the former Dillard's Anchor is absolutely insane. Being empty and abandoned for over 14 years now, The decay is crazy, with the once pristine white bricks of the 1970s now faded and dark, an overgrowth of the vegetation making it look like something out of a zombie movie, with vines and leaves growing up the sides of the building, and the original silver mirrored glass finish with levels of fancy shopping and a restaurant on the top floor, now faded and yellow, even smashed down some places. Seeing it the way it is makes you wonder of the days when the parking lots would be filled to the brim when shoppers would be roaming through the doors. Nasty. When I walk up to the old boarded up main entrance, I take a quick look over the boards and you'll see just a small, quick example of what this mall looks like on the inside at its current state, which is absolutely breathtaking. Before we go west, the last thing I noticed while watching my footage was this small little glimpse of the mall's old sign, which is so overgrown by vegetation it's hardly visible. But anyway, that concludes the Jamestown Mall, and I think it's time we take a look at its sister counterpart. Chesterfield Mall opened its doors in 1976 as the sister mall to the Jamestown Mall, both being constructed by the Richard Jacobs Group. It featured similar anchors upon opening, being Sears and Sticks Bar and Fuller. The mall featured several of the same aesthetics and themes as the Jamestown Mall, similar stores, architecture in the roof and skylights, and lots of statues and artwork with palm trees decking the premises. However, unlike Jamestown, Chesterfield featured 2 levels of shopping, which gave it a much higher selection of stores than Jamestown did. It was located in a prime area of the city, and unlike its sister counterpart, it was nicely nestled into a growing area and booming economy. So coming up here, you're going to see the former Dillard's, which was 3 levels, and this location closed because of a water main break in the building, which flooded the entirety of the first floor in September of 2016. And while the company promised to reopen the location, it just never reopened due to the mall's falling performance and dropping sales. And when we get inside and see a sneak peek into the windows, you can even still see some of the stuff inside, like they just cleaned up the water and left. In 1978, the mall added on a 4-screen general cinema, and 3 years later a huge expansion was added, featuring new inline tenants and the mall's newest anchor, Famous Bar. In 1984, Sticks Bar and Fuller rebranded their store to Dillard's, and in 1995, Famous Bar moved locations to a newer, gigantic store right across the hall, and JCPenney opened their store in the former space right after. At this point, the mall was still doing very well, seeing the parking lots packed on most days. It was one of the best performing malls in the St. Louis metro. However, things were about to change. As the 2000s rolled in, the old 4-screen cinema closed its doors for good, and in 2005, JCPenney shuttered its location, with the space immediately being demolished, and a newer set of front-facing stores being added on, such as V-Stock, American Girl Doll, the Cheesecake Factory, and a new 3rd-level AMC 14-screen megaplex. In 2006, Famous Bar renamed their store to Macy's. At this point, the mall was doing good enough throughout the early 2010s to sustain itself, but in more recent years is when it's really started to get bad. As you know, Dillard's closed in 2016, which kind of sparked the serious decline of this mall. And soon issues affecting almost all St. Louis malls began affecting Chesterfield. The rising crime rate of the area and the over-malling of the area Chesterfield Mall is in, and newer strip center malls opening right down the road, most notably Chesterfield Premium Outlets and the Chesterfield Outlets. As 2017 came and went, the mall saw more of its stores leaving. However, unlike Jamestown, these spaces were never replaced, not even by discount ones. The food court was essentially left abandoned, losing each of its tenants one by one. In 2018, the AMC saw its location even downgraded to an AMC Classic, and in May, Sears announced the closure of its location, ending their 42-year run in June of the same year. From Sears' closure to the time I visited this mall has remained in the exact same state. almost completely empty, with Macy's as the last anchor and little to no stores. It's only a matter of time before Chesterfield can't pay its electrical bill anymore. And it's really sad because this mall still features so many of its old 80s aesthetics, which are so beautiful, like the palm trees. I mean, you never see palm trees in the north anymore, so just being here is such a cool experience. And obviously, if you're in the area, you know what I'm gonna say. I definitely recommend visiting this place. And maybe something can still be done to save it. However, I find it extremely unlikely. And if you had a childhood at this mall or remember it fondly, you can be angry at the terrible outlet developments, and that's okay. But you should eventually look past that and remember the good memories that this mall was able to give you. So throughout the entire St. Louis expedition, and while I was at Chesterfield Mall, I was with my friend Aaron, and he's a St. Louis local, and he spent quite a bit of time at this mall back in the day. So I got him here on the phone, and I'm just going to ask him some questions about Chesterfield Mall, and what this mall was like back in the day, and what it meant to him. So when did you visit this mall, and was it often?
Oh, I probably visited close every other week or every week, I would say. It was definitely one of the top 2 malls in the St. Louis area.
And what was it like when you visited back then? Was it like really, busy?
It it was busy for sure, especially on the weekends. I mean, it was like I said, once again, let me rephrase that. It was definitely busy on the weekend. On the weekday, you had your slow days, but it was still a very busy mall. It was one of the malls that you wanted to be seen at.
Yeah, and when do you think this mall really started to like go downhill?
Well, I noticed definitely when the two malls in the Chesterfield Valley came in. It was just a matter of time before it, what you see today has happened to it. But it breaks my heart to see the mall in the condition that it's in. I remember it as a very fun place to be at. Always full of life and people shopping, enjoying themselves.
Yeah. And I know you have a family, so was this mall like a really good mall to take your family? Was it very family oriented?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, you had the carousel in the middle of the mall, which we've taken both of our kids to it now, and it's a sad state to see it gone. We have a lot of fond memories of it. I remember the pet store down by Sears on the lower level.
Yeah.
That was always a fun place to see the puppies and the cats that were out in the window.
So right now in the video, I am passing by the old food court where that would have been, and you were there with me. It was pretty empty. When you visited back then, was it like really, poppin'? Was there a lot of people there?
Well, actually, the food court used to be where the H&M
Really?
was up by, I believe it was at JCPenney's or Macy's.
Yeah, Macy's.
Yeah, so the food court was on the upper level. I don't know if I shared that or not. It had a McDonald's, it had a Chick-fil-A, it had some Cajun food and some, I believe, if my memory serves me right, it was a Sbarro
Yeah.
and a Chinese restaurant in there. The original food court was always full, and always had tons of people in that one. Now the new one that replaced the old one that's downstairs, that was always consistently busy too. I mean, especially when they added the theater in that direction,
Yeah.
and the Cheesecake Factory. It was just another draw for that mall.
Yeah, just looking at it now and seeing it, the state that it's in, it really makes you wonder how long this mall has, because it's the same story with Jamestown Mall. It had lots of competition, the area's diversity was changing, and it makes you wonder how much time this mall has. And what's your output on that? How much time do you think this mall has?
Wow, that I don't know. I think the land itself in the Chesterfield area is a very sought after land. What I see in the next couple years, or within a year, it's changed hands so many times.
Yeah.
The property has, but the property itself is very valuable. I see what happening, in the next couple of years is that they level the mall. Behind the mall, there has been some development with apartments, if I believe right, or condos, to something like that.
Yeah.
I see that kind of engulfing the property of the mall. To when, I don't know, but it's just, with everything going on in the Chesterfield Valley, it's just very hard to compete.
Yeah. So in my video, I am approaching the old Dillard's Anchor, and it makes me wonder of when you visited this mall. Did you shop at the Anchor stores? Were they ever busy back then?
Actually, I would park on the Dillard's wing and walk through Dillard's.
Hmm.
It was your average anchor store, I would say. All of them. You know, there's plenty of people that would shop there. I would not shop there as much. I would. I had my core. My core stores that I would go to. I would go to Express for Men. I would go to Gap. I would go to Banana Republic. Places like that. A little bit more trendier, but it always seemed busy.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Dillard's, the water main break, and when you look through the window, you can see it. You can even still see some of the flooding. There's like puddles all over the ground, just small reminders of what happened. And seeing all the clothes stores around it, and up top, didn't you say there was was a California pizza oven kitchen?
Yeah, California Pizza Kitchen was in that on that wing too.
Yeah, and I've heard that was pretty popular before it closed, but
yeah, it was always very busy. The popularity of California Pizza Kitchen has slowly gone downhill.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite places to eat at when I was at the mall.
When you see the California Pizza Kitchen, and then when you visit the mall, you see from the front, from certain angles, the mall actually does look busy. When you're looking at it from the AMC / Cheesecake Factory, and I'm pretty sure that it's correct me if I'm wrong, if it's the Cheesecake Factory that's really kind of bringing all those people in, because
I absolutely believe Cheesecake Factory is bringing people in. People today, I don't think they go to the theater as much as they used to.
Mm-hmm.
The California Pizza Kitchen, there's only 2 of them in St. Louis that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
One at the Galleria and one in Chesterfield. But it's a very popular place for people in St. Louis to eat at.
Yeah, so in my video, I am nearing the end, but I want to thank you for being on the phone and for the interview.
It was my pleasure.
So yeah, now that we're on the lower level, you can really just see how all the emptiness has affected the whole mall. And like Aaron said, it's really only a matter of time before the mall closes for good. And one last thing, you'll see that we saw walking out of the mall at the end of the video was this old kiosk which had a bunch of papers and pamphlets on it that advertised opening a new store at this mall and how it's such a great opportunity, which I found really funny. I don't see why anyone would want to open a business at the mall where any day you could receive an email about how you have 30 days to vacate. Yeah, so just last bits here on the lower level, we see the Macy's, which the second time I visited was closed, so that left this end pretty empty, kind of similar to the others. And then, you know, the obvious lower level corner locations of old jewelry stores, and then an old Auntie Annie's pretzel place with the little pretzel logo still visible on the counter. That's just going towards the Sears end. And then when we get to the Sears, the final thing you'll recognize is this place with a bunch of little triangle windows, and that's the old pet store that Aaron was talking about. But yeah, that really kind of wraps up the whole expedition to this mall in today's video. But yeah, that concludes the Dead Mall series special. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and like and subscribe if you did. And let me know if you like this newer professional style of video. Next week, we'll be taking a look at the last St. Louis mall of this expedition, that being Plaza Frontenac, a pretty strange, eerie dead mall. But until then, have yourselves a great, lovely day. And yeah, peace out, guys. See you later.